The 1971 World Series was the championship series of Major League Baseball's 1971 season. The 68th edition of the World Series. It was a best-of-7 playoff between the defending World Series and American League champion Baltimore Orioles and the National League champion Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates won in 7 games. Game 4 in Pittsburgh was the first World Series game played at night. The teams proved to be evenly matched. As the series went a full 7 games, the home team prevailed in each of the first 6. In Game 7 in Baltimore, the Pirates' Steve Blass pitched a 4-hit complete game for a win over Mike Cuellar and the Orioles. In his final World Series appearance, Roberto Clemente became the first Spanish-speaking ball player to earn World Series Most Valuable Player award. He hit safely in all 7 games of the series, duplicating a feat he had performed in 1960. 21-year-old rookie Bruce Kison pitched 6 1/3 scoreless innings and allowed just 1 hit in 2 appearances for the Pirates. He set a record of 3 hit batters in a World Series game, which also tied the 1907 record for a World Series. This was the first of 3 consecutive World Series, all 7 games, in which the winning team scored fewer runs overall. The trend continued for the next 7-game series in 1975. These 2 teams met again in the Fall Classic 8 years later, with the same result, as the Pirates won the final 3 games to win in 7.
The final one, of course, is by no means a sellout. And Cuellar goes to Dave Cash, who has 4 hits in the series, and one of them off Cuellar was a double. And he takes a strike. It is 309 down the lines, 360 to left center, 380 a little deeper left center, then farther out to 390, and straight away 410. No balls and a strike to Cash, and the screwball is outside for the ball. 1-1. In the game against Cuellar, in which the Pirates defeated them 5-1 over in Pittsburgh with Blass, his mount opponent, a couple of changes were made since that lineup. There's a ball hit toward third and a bad hop, but a fine play by Brooks Robinson drove him out. A sharply hit ground ball by Dave Cash, cornered down there by Brooks Robinson. Now, Gene Klein stands in. On the regular season, batted at 308. 1 homer and 24 runs batted. And he has 1 hit in the series. That was a triple, but it was not against Cuellar, as Al Oliver played in the center field slot against Cuellar and batted in the number 2 position. Starts him off with a slow curve, hit deep toward left center. Retman running hard along with Buford, and it'll be Retman. So it's 2 down. Outside of the switch that Jim Simpson told you about regarding Willie Stargell, manager Danny Murtaugh, even as far back as 1960, had one method of managing a club that sort of befuddled many reporters. For instance, he started against Cuellar in the 3rd game, Oliver, and batted him number 2. And without any change in any manner at all, he just said, my center fielder will be Kleins, and he's batting in the number 2 spot. In other words, he rarely shifts his players by their ability. Once he establishes the lineup, that's it. Here's Clemente in, and it's inside a ball. Bobby batting at .341 for the year. 11 hits in the series. Has a home run and 3 runs batted in. The outfield played him way around to right. Buford giving him an awful lot of the left field line. A 1-0 pitch, and it's into the dirt for the ball, 2-0. If Cuellar should make a little bit of a mistake, Buford's in for a long run, because he is way off that line. 2 balls, no strikes to Roberto. That's slow, Scoochie in there, 2-1. With 11 base hits. We'll check on that. Needs 2 more to tie a series record, most hits in a 7-game series. And there's the slow chopper hit down toward Belanger. The shortstop comes up, he throws, and just does get it. So Cuellar retires the Pirates in the 1st inning in 1-2-3 fashion. And we go now to the bottom of the 1st. No score.
Along with Bob Prince, Jim Simpson back in Baltimore. Buford will lead it off against Steve Blass, who won the 3rd game 5-1, and in that 3rd game allowed the Orioles just 3 hits. He struck out 8. He walked only 2. The only run he gave up was Frank Robinson's leadoff home run in the 7th. And that was the first ball game that the Pirates won. Blass, the tall right-hander from Canaan, Connecticut, 29 years old, warming up now with Sanguine. And Buford, a switch hitter, batting left-handed, as he's had to do in most of this series. Bob Deal made a brief appearance in relief in the 2nd game. And Luke Walker, a left-hander, started in the fourth game. Other than that, the Orioles have been seeing a steady diet of right-handers. Buford ready, Blass ready, and so's Bob Prince.
All right, Jim Simpson, and Buford, 5 hits in the series, has 2 home runs. And he wore the yoke, as they say, or the collar against Blass. Most everybody did. Frank Robinson only got 2 of the 3 hits, a home run and a single, and Brooks Robinson the other one. So there's really very little need of telling you what the rest of the Orioles did against Blass in that game, because they didn't do a thing. Now Pagan has come up tight at third. Coaching at third base, Billy Hunter for the Orioles. George Stoller over at first. The outfield and out to the right. No scores. We play in the bottom of the first. Blass comes down. A fastball underneath. That is the ball. 1 ball, no strikes. Nestor Shylock calling the balls and strikes. Ed Sudol, John Rice, Jim Odom around the paths with John Kibler in left field and Ed Vargo in right field. They'll switch off that. It's Vargo in left and Kibler in right. Here's the delivery, and it tails outside. Ball 2. Your left field foul line umpire is Ed Vargo. Your right field foul line umpire, John Kibler. 2 balls, no strikes. To Buford leading it off, and he takes one through there. Shortened up as though he was not going to really bunt, just watching the pitch all the way. Ball 2 and strike 1 to Buford. No score in the bottom of the first. And the 2-1 delivery, a fastball, a swing and a miss, and it's 2-2. And that time, a good riding fastball by Blass. Blass has had plenty of days of rest. Been speculation that if Baltimore gets into the Pirate bullpen, you might see Kison and a couple of others on the long roll with Luke Walker. And for Baltimore, undoubtedly could be Dukes. 2-2 pitch. Here's a high curve hung upstairs, ball 3, 3-2. Ball 3, strike 2, wind up by Blass. Back with a curve, misses outside. Oh, Buford is on. That is the first walk in the ball game. Blass only issued 2 walks in the third game against Baltimore, the game he defeated Cuellar by the score of 5-1. So he's already started off with a walk against a man who was a very difficult fellow to pitch to in that leadoff spot. Now here's Dave Johnson batting at .282, 18 homers, and 72 runs batted in on the year. He has 4 hits in the series, no homers, 3 runs batted in. Blass checks him, sends him a fastball outside, ball 1. Johnson just fell off the plate in the big hit yesterday for the Orioles and let go of the bat and blooped it into left field. But he'll treasure that one. And he's a computer expert. He figures that he hits better in the 2-hole than he does anywhere else in the Baltimore lineup. Buford a short lead off first, and the delivery now, and there's a foul straight back in the count of 1-1. Well, it's just the type of a base hit that Davy Johnson got yesterday against the Pirates, and many players do throughout the season. It makes it even more difficult to throw the no-hitter. Just hit one off the end of the bat or in on the fist, and it bloops or the bat breaks, and all sorts of things occur. Now, Blass has called time, and John Rice, the second base umpire. They want new baseball examined there, I guess, or that ball taken care of, and so plate umpire Nestor Shylock looking at it, returns it to Sanguian. 1 ball and 1 strike. The outfield is playing Davy Johnson straight away. The infield likewise in that capacity, with the only man up in the infield, Pagan at third. A ball and a strike to Dave Johnson. Blass delivers, and it's bunted on a pop-up to Blass. He has it, and no play at first. So Johnson trying to drop the bunt, popped it up, and Blass grabbed it for the unassisted put-out. And here's Boog Powell. Boog with 3 hits in the series, batting at .256. 22 homers, 92 runs batted in on the regular season. No homers and 1 run batted in the series. Let's see how the Pirates deploy the infield. They have been overshifting with Hernandez, Cash, and Robertson. 1 out and 1 on, and a Baltimore first under very cloudy skies and no score. The infield shift is on. Hernandez, Cash, and Robertson all off the first base side, and Powell steps out. The 2 fellas you expect to hit those cannonading shots have not yet done it. Powell and Stargell. And Blass starts him right off with that changeup, and he likes to establish that pitch early, as Jim Simpson told you the other day over in Pittsburgh. And once he establishes it, if it's in there, he'll stay right with it. He went to it very early in the ball game over in Pittsburgh, and it was a successful pitch for him. And he started Powell off right there with it. Now he comes back with a fastball, hit foul out of play down the right field line into the upper deck. So it's no balls, 2 strikes. Powell swung on that one like he was guessing fastball, and he really pulled it, Jim. Hope whoever's up in that upper deck had a glove. No balls, 2 strikes. Blass reading the sign from Sanguin. Buford at first base on a walk, 1 out, and no score here in the bottom of the first. The 0-2 pitch. There's that changeup, another foul hit down the line. And Powell is now waiting on that pitch, and we'll see whether Blass will change around, maybe brush him back or go outside with him. They're going to have a little conference out on the mound. Sanguin wants to chat things over with Steve. Cuellar opened this game up in easy fashion, disposing of the Pirates in 1-2-3 order. And the Bucks, who had left 59 men on the bases in the first 6 games, didn't have any problems there in the first inning. Now, Boog Powell, no balls, 2 strikes. Blass checking on Buford over to first, and the pitch, and he almost hit him right off his left knee. Came in fast, a ball and 2 strikes. Somebody asked Murtaugh, did he have any reason he could assign to why he'd left so many men on 59 runners? He said, I think it's because we put so many on. And Earl Weaver's coming out now. And they're going to object a little bit to something that Blass is doing out on that mound. And he steps off the mound. And Nestor Shalak is pointing into the Pirate dugout. And they may be asking Danny Murtaugh to come out. They want to determine some sort of a delivery by Blass. And there's one thing, if Blass has a certain type of delivery that is peculiar to him alone, he is allowed to do that, and there's no balk involved. But it must be one that is peculiar to him. And the National League umpires are probably being questioned right here, Jim Simpson, about that move. Because Blass has a certain type of move that Weaver has objected to. And we'll just have to wait and see. At the ball and 2-strike count on Boog Powell. Murtaugh's still out there in the middle of that huddle. And they've brought the entire infield in. Now they're showing Blass on the pitching plate, right out there, talking it over. And all the umpires have become involved in this situation. It has to do, I'm sure, with his delivery while on the mound and his position on the rubber as to whether or not when he moves as he comes to the plate he's in the act of committing a balk. If you step up that 1 foot and step off and then come back in, you could be in a position of a balk. And that also could be a little ploy on the part of Mr. Weaver to bring about a little anxiety on the part of Mr. Blass.
Like a man on the first tee as a man's about to swing a driver, and they say, do you inhale or exhale on your backswing? Maybe Earl Weaver's doing the same thing to Steve Blass.
And they're allowing Blass to make several deliveries to see if he can acclimate himself to the manner in which Weaver is arguing. Now, here comes Weaver back out again. He wants to talk to Nestor Shalak, and Weaver apparently is unhappy with the way in which Blass is pitching off that plate.
You said Weaver's unhappy. How about Blass?
Well, I have to agree with you there. Blass would be extremely unsettled. And Nestor Shalak appears to be satisfied with the manner in which he's coming off that mound. Weaver's made his point. And so we have a little fireworks here early. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Buford, the runner at first base, he's there on a walk. Now we have a monitor here, and we can see that our NBC camera crew is anchoring on Blass's right foot. And that's where the argument's been, as to just what he's been doing with it as he comes off. Comes to the plate, and it's low for the ball. 2-2. Once you put that foot down on that plate with a runner on base, there's a certain thing you can do with it, and there's a certain thing you can't do with it. And undoubtedly, Weaver or his scouts picked up a motion by Blass, and they want him to anchor that foot. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Pitch to foul. Change up high, ball 3, 3-2. We just received word, and I find it hard to believe that he's pitching off the end of the rubber and they object to it. He can pitch off any part of that rubber he wants to pitch off as long as he has made contact with it. Now, they may have said that he was all the way up past the rubber and over on the first base side. We'll tell you more about that in a minute. 3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, he struck him out. Now, some pitchers position their anchor foot on the pitching rubber right in the middle of it. Some work off the third base side of the rubber. Some work off the first base side of the rubber. And undoubtedly now, Jim Simpson, the Earl Weaver is saying that he did not have contact with it. He was too far off it, and that he was more toward first base with no contact made whatsoever. So now it's Frank Robinson standing in. And 7 hits in the series. A high fly out to right field, slicing. Bobby Clemente running hard. Gauges it perfectly against the wind, and the wind that one, without any question, affected the flight of that ball. That had a chance to be out of here up against the wall. So it's no runs, no hits, no errors, and a man left. And at the end of 1 inning of play, there is no score.
Baltimore, Jim Simpson with Bob Prince as we go to the top of the second inning. The Pirates went down in order against Cuellar. In the first inning, we had a little discussion with Earl Weaver, the umpire, Steve Blass, Danny Murtaugh about Steve Blass' position on the pitching rubber in the Orioles first. Buford walked, but Blass got the next 3 in a row. And, Bob, I was watching Frank Robinson who hit that long fly to right field. He was not taking off and running, feeling it probably would be caught, and we caution everybody, Robertson does have the bad right leg, and he was barely trotting to first base.
Well, you're very right there, Jim, and the fellow that took off and really ran was Roberto Clemente, and but for the wind blowing very strongly from that sector over toward left, that ball could have challenged the wall. Here's Bob Robertson, and he belts one right down to Brooks Robinson. And there's one out. A line drive to Robinson. Sounded like he might have broken his bat. Robertson has 5 hits in the series. So now 4 in a row for Cuellar as Manny Sanguin has been moved up to the number 5 spot in with 9 hits, second only to Clemente in the number of hits for the Pirates in the series standing in. Sanguin against Cuellar had 2 hits and 4 at-bats, a single and a double, and scored a run. One out and none on in the Pirates' second inning. Game 7 of the 1971 World Series. The Baltimore will just be leaving right out of here. I guess about Wednesday they head for Japan, where they'll play over there for about a month for the fine teams in Japan. There's a foul back by Sanguin off the screwball. 9-1. Japanese baseball is a tremendous sport over there, of course. And fan appreciation is utterly unbelievable. The 0-1 pitch, and a swing and a miss. He tried to hammer the ball to right field, strike 2. One thing the Orioles will have to learn, there's no such thing as a rainout in Japanese baseball. The parachutes come up, and you just keep right on playing. No balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, none on the pitch. And it's hit foul to the right out of play as Cuellar tried to come by with his fastball. If yesterday's mark of 3 20-game winners in 2 innings was a World Series record, certainly 4 20-game winners in as many games in a row is another record, because Cuellar comes right back with a 20-victory mark. A ball and 2 strikes, screwball missing outside. Cuellar reading the sign now from Ellie Hendricks, who sets low over the plate, and he sends a Scroogey down there. It's bounced off the chest of Brooks Robinson, keeps it in front of him, throws him out. Now that's 3 plays in 5 outs, and that's more plays than Brooks Robinson had against the Pirates in the first couple of games, as they attempt very much to stay away from that side of the diamond if they can. Here's Willie Stargell, who has 7 walks in the series and 4 hits. He's batting 6th in the order. On the year, batted at .295 with 48 homers and 125 runs batted in. The Oriole outfield around to the right on him. And Stargell takes a fastball through for a strike. 2 down, none on, no score. The sky a little brighter. The lights, however, have been on since the start of this game. Cuellar into the windup, over the top and strike two call. Pirates scored first in 4 of the previous games in the first, third, fifth, and sixth games. Game scoreless here for the moment with 2 down and none on in the top of the second. 0-2 pitch, and Stargell strikes out one. 3 up and 3 down. Cuellar pitched a perfect 2 innings. We go to the bottom of the second, and there is no score.
We go to the last of the second inning now in a scoreless ball game. It'll be Merv Redmond, Brooks Robinson, and Ellie Hendricks to face Steve Blass. Blass walked Buford in the Baltimore first inning, and thereafter got Davy Johnson on a bunt off right back to the mound, struck out Boog Powell after much discussion over his delivery from the mound, and got Frank Robinson on the fly to right. Starks, yours up in the last of the second inning is Bob.
Here's Merv Redmond. He had a big base hit in yesterday's World Series game. A ball that bounced about 15 times going through the infield. Ball players refer to that as a ball with eyes on it, but it's a good hit, and it turned out to be a dandy. He bounces a chopper down to the shortstop, and Hernandez just took a funny hop, and he throws him out. That ball started right over the mound and took a divot, hit something, and cut over right onto Hernandez's throwing side. 1 out, and here's Brooks Robinson batting at .272. No homers and 5 runs batted in. Brooks has 7 hits in the series. They're going to play him straight away. 1 out and an on, no score. Fastball from Blass at the knees for a call strike. The theme from My Fair Lady is get me to the church on time, and the Baltimore Orioles are very aware of that. There's a pitch high, 1-1. Jack Dunn, vice president of the Baltimore Orioles, arranged for a helicopter to land right out here outside of Memorial Stadium by a high school, and that helicopter will then take Bruce Kison and Bob Moose. Kison to be married and Moose to be the best man back to Pittsburgh. At least it'll hop them over to the Friendship Airport where a corporate plane is on hand from somebody in Pittsburgh to fly him on in here to get to the wedding on time. 2 balls and a strike. Now the 2-1 delivery. And it just broke inside ball 3. 3-1. Rather imagine throughout his professional career, Bruce Kison, a victor in one of these series games, would take a lot of ribbing down through the years in baseball, planning a wedding on the 7th day of the World Series. 3-1 pitch. And it's called ball 4. And so that's the second walk. Now that's as many walks as Blass issued third game that he won over Cuellar 5-1. Jim Simpson told you he had 8 strikeouts in that ball game. He's picked up 1 thus far. Here's the catcher, Ellie Hendricks. The Pirates employ again the infield shift, moving Hernandez over on the first base side. Hendricks, the left-hand batter, on the year, .250 average, and had 9 homers. Not holding on Brooks Robinson as a fastball pops at the knees for a call strike. 1 out and 1 on in the Baltimore second. The game is scoreless. Now Blass from the belt delivers a change. It's hit slowly down to first base. Goes back to retrieve the ball, and they had a little bit of a foul up there as Robertson went out wide, thinking he could get the ball, throw it up and force Brooks Robinson, and then it hit off his glove. And Dave Cash, who was bird dogging in behind him, couldn't come up with it. And thus there's going to be an error charge here. As the ball went right between the legs of Bobby Robertson, skipped off that one leg and went out into shallow right behind first, and Dave Cash had to get it. So the Pirates have committed an error. And the error is charged to first baseman Bob Robertson. And with Bruce Robinson on at second, Hendricks on at first, here's Mark Belanger, the shortstop at .266. So homers, no runs batted in this series. .266 for the season. And as the ground ball hits into the Cash, steps on second, he'll go to first base and puts it wide, but he gets a double play call. A little bit of argument started there, but not too much by George Stoller. Belanger asks Ed Sudol about it, but double play is 4 unassisted on the first base. The inning showed no runs, no hits, 1 error, 1 left. At the end of 2, no score.
With Bob Prince as we go to the top of the third inning in the bottom of the Pirate batting order in Jose Pagan, Jack Hernandez, and Steve Blass. Neither team has a hit yet. The Pirates committed an error, but as it turned out, it wasn't costly. Of course, the game is scoreless, and here's Bob.
Jose Pagan, standing in on the year, batted at .241, has 3 hits in the series, and 2 of them against Cuellar, with a double and a single and a run batted in. He takes a fastball that sunk a little outside, ball 1. Cuellar has pitched perfect ball through the front 2. Now the left-hander has his sign, starts his motion, sends a screwball, is let up on it, taken for a strike, 1-1. Pagan, a veteran of World Series play, former great star, of course, with the Giants. Been with the Pirates now for several years, been a great bench player, and there's a ball pulled to third, and Brooks Robinson has it. He throws it across, 1 out. Now for Robinson, he's had 1, 2, 3 assists and 1 put out. 4 chances. Here's Hernandez at 206, the Pirates shortstop. 4 hits in the series. Hernandez did not do anything against Cuellar in the 3rd game of the series. He did come up as a pinch batter in the 7th and grounded out. He bunts and he's hit by his own batted ball, and if it's in fair territory, let's see what they'll rule. They did not. They ruled the ball, hit him while he was in the dust. Mr. Shallock, wasting no time whatsoever, just came right out and said that ball bounced in the batter's box, came up and hit him, and thus it's a foul ball. No balls and a strike. Baseball being tossed in. Nestor looks at it, returns it to play. 309 down both lines, and it falls away in all sorts of configurations with inner fences and outer fences. 14 feet high on the brick park. 7 feet high out in center field. There's a foul up along first that's twisting out of play. 0-2. And you have to be careful on balls hit here. If they're hit low enough between the 309 and the 360 mark, if they hit to the left of the 360 mark, they're in play. If they hit to the right of it, it's a home run, and all sorts of things. A foul down the first base side, 0-2. So far, a no-hitter with only 1 error. Pittsburgh's error. No balls, 2 strikes. Jackie Hernandez 1 out, none on. Cuellar delivers, and here's a ball hit deep toward right. Frank Robinson will be there. So it's 2 down, and Steve Blass will stand in. Blass on the year batted at .120. Had no homers and 2 runs batted in. Two down in the 3rd. A swing and a miss by Blass on that screwball. There's lots of cheering when Pirates Roberto Clemente goes out to right field, giving rise to the belief that there are a lot of Pittsburgh fans that have come over here for the weekend series and are lodged out in that area. There's a ball bounced down to second baseman Davy Johnson, an easy 2-hopper on the first to retire the side. So it's 3 up and 3 down, and we go now to the Baltimore 3rd, and there is no score.
The Baltimore Orioles versus the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Now, there are all kinds of records at stake in World Series, especially when you get as far as 7 games. The Pirates have a chance to tie 4 other clubs, the last of which was the Cardinals back in 1968, for the fewest errors in a 7-game series of 2. But the error charge to Bob Robertson made that 3, so the Pirates are no longer in that sweepstakes. And Pittsburgh came into the ball game having left 59 men on base. The record is 64 in a 7-game series by Detroit. But thus far, the Pirates aren't challenging that record either. They have gone down 9 men in a row, leaving nobody on base. And the man that's done it is coming up right now, Mike Cuellar, the pitcher for Baltimore, and he will get a hand as Bob Prince steps back.
Cuellar, 103 on the season. I think, too, Jim Simpson, is it not correct that if Baltimore should win this, they'll be the first team in series history to win the series in 7 games, winning all 4 in their own ballpark?
Absolutely correct. And, of course, the Orioles are working, Bob, on a 9-game winning streak in this ballpark.
So lots of things are riding here as Mike Cuellar, left-hand batter, stands in. Had 1 homer here. Cuellar against Blass went 0 for 1. Did draw a walk in the 6th inning. In the first game, they appeared against each other. Blass starts him off with a tailing fastball outside. 1 ball to no strikes. Egon is up tight to the left-hand batter, going steady with that foul line at third. Cuellar swung and could have had better success if he'd have swung when Sanguin let it go back to Blass. The ball was by him, in other words. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's a foul, flicked to the left and out of play. There was a fellow that took 2 swings on a pitch one time. His name was Billy White. On a big, fearful changeup sent his way, and he was way out in front and swung, and he hit it on the second swing, and of course that didn't count. There's a swing and a miss, and Cuellar goes down, and Blass has recorded his second strikeout. That'll bring up Buford, who walked to lead off the Baltimore first inning. He's been one of the 2 Baltimore base runners against Blass. One of the 3, I should say. Buford walked. Robinson, Brooks, that is, walked. And Hendricks got aboard on an error. A little difficult when you get involved in plays here. Jim Simpson and I are trying to phonetically let you know who's who, but when you start talking about Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, and Bob Robertson, you get yourself twisted up a little bit. There's a curve into the dirt in behind Buford, and he skipped rope. I think he's upset he didn't let the ball hit him. Best man I ever saw it getting hit by a pitch when he wanted to get hit was Jackie Robinson. He'd make all sorts of motions, but he'd never leave the spot. And he'd get hit 1-1. You are supposed to try to get out of the way of it. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 out and on in the Baltimore third, and no score. Now the 1-1 delivery from Blass comes right up with a hard slider, but he's outside with it, 2-1. Blass, last time he was pitching, of course, his father tried to get over the dugout and get down on the field, and it took a little trouble to get him there. There's a ball jammed him beautifully. It's hit down where Blass dives on it, and now they rule the foul ball off the foot of Buford. Blass going very sharply over to the left. He's going to pick up the ball, then dived and fielded it. But it's a foul ball. Should Blass be victorious here today, Jim Simpson, I don't know if the Baltimore fine security people here would recognize his father. He had enough trouble in his own home park getting down on the field.
That was funny. Tony Kubek was trying to interview him for both radio and television, and as the gentleman tried to get across the dugout, the police, not knowing who it was, tried to keep him away, and Steve broke away from Tony and said, "Let me get him, that's my father." They embraced, and then the interview.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Don Buford. Blass is just outside, 3-2. He nibbled in the corner that time, didn't quite pick it up. So Buford, out to a 3-2 count, walked his first time up, swings and hammers a foul off the first base side on a pitch that's well in on the hands. You see now where the President of the United States quit being a crystal ball gazer for this series. He predicted a couple of the outcomes successfully, decided he'd let well enough alone. 3 balls, 2 strikes. And there's a ball belted into right center, into the gap, going over to get to it quickly, Clemetti. And Buford has the first hit of the ball game for either side. A line single to right center field. It comes with 1 away in the Baltimore third. And there was no doubt about that one. Now, there's one thing about that hit here, that's a single. If that same hit occurs over at Three River Stadium, that's extra bases. Because of their synthetic turf. Now here's Dave Johnson. He tried to bunt back in the first inning and popped up to Blass. They're running. They got him picked off. Robertson throws the ball down to Cash. They tag Buford, and he's out. And Cash might have been spiked accidentally there. They had him picked off. They went right to first base with the ball. They fired it on up to Cash, who really put the ball on Buford, and Buford got a spike in there accidentally on Cash, and he's examining right now his right shin bone, and Pittsburgh's trainer Tony Barterome is coming out. That pickoff play will go Blass, the pitcher, to Robertson, the first baseman, to Cash, the second baseman, or 1 to 3 to 4. Cash is going to be all right, and it was in and around the right shin area. Blass is now loosening a little bit while he has the opportunity. And Dave Johnson is yet to see a pitch, and this, the third inning, will be up now with 2 men out, nobody on.
Now
we sort of tell you about Bob Moose has a good move. Blass is just a shade behind Moose and moves, and that proved it right there on Buford, who can run. And a ball hit sharply to third. Pagan makes a brilliant play on a short hop and throws him out. A magnificent play down there by Jose Pagan on behalf of the Pirates. So no runs, a hit, no errors, nobody left, and at the end of 3, there is no score.
Along with Bob Prince, Jim Simpson back in Baltimore. What fireworks there have been thus far by the Orioles. They have walked a couple of men, reached on an error, and have the game's only base hit. But like the Pirates, they have no runs. The Pirates haven't enjoyed having a base runner yet. They've gone down 9 men in a row with only one hitting the ball hard. That was Bob Robertson, who led off the second with a line drive right to Brooks Robinson. They go to the top of the fourth. Scoreless ball game in the top of the Pirate batting order. Here's Bob.
All right, Jim, and Dave Cash, you grounded out to third in the first inning. We'll lead it off here as they turn their lineup around for the first time, and this is the final game of the 1971 series. Cuellar's fastball, swing and a foul ball, and it's 0-1. Frank Osiak coaching at third for the Pirates, and over to first base, Don Leffert. Danny Murtaugh was asked the inevitable question, and I'm sure the same of Earl Weaver. The 0-1 delivery, and there's a ball hit out toward Johnson. He goes to the left and spears it with a one-handed grab. Second baseman Dave Johnson takes the second base drive of Dave Cash and holds on to it for an out. Here's Kleins. They were asked, I don't know, I can't say what Earl Weaver would have said, but I'm sure they asked the same question, but they happened to be within ear range of Murtaugh's answer about what difference it would make about winning this game in the financial side of it, whether it would affect the play. And there's a bunt by Kleins, and Cuellar is off the mound fast, throws, and a great play by Boot Powell. That was a real bid for a base hit. Fine fielding by Cuellar, a low throw, and Powell on a ball thrown right into the runner came up magnificently.
You know, they talk about this Baltimore infield, Bob, being with Brooks Robinson at third, Bart Belanger at short, and Davy Johnson at second. Do not count out Boot Powell. I'm sure you don't. But one of his best plays is digging the ball out of the dirt, and that was a prime example right there. Saved a base hit. Kleins is quick.
That was a magnificent play. Just super. We wanted to say what Danny Murtaugh's answer to the reporters was about the difference in the prime money rate on the winner and loser share. He said, play the seventh game. Pride is the thing you're thinking about. Your pride in the game and being the world champion. Here's Bobby Clemente. Bounced to short his first time up. Hits a screwball a mile in the left center field. It is going. It is gone. A home run for Clemente over the left center wall, 380 feet away. And those who said he couldn't pull a ball just found out on a high screwball what he can do with it. And the Pirates lead 1-0. That's 12 base hits for Clemente, his second home run. And is against Cuellar. And against Cuellar, that is the second home run. There's a bouncer by Bobby Robertson. In the hole, over goes Brooks Robinson, throws to Powell. That'll retire the side. So Clemente, who hits the home run, has now hit safely in 14 consecutive World Series games. Puts the Pirates on top here in the top of the fourth. As they go to the bottom of the fourth, Pittsburgh 1 and Baltimore 0.
Bob Prince, not to bring up an old dispute, but the statements made by Roberto Clemente that Memorial Stadium in Baltimore is less than a good ballpark in which to play, and the fact that the hitting background is so poor. There's some white houses out beyond the center field bench, and many times the ball comes out of the right-hander's hand, out of those white house backgrounds, and it's very difficult to pick up. But if Clemente, as I said yesterday, could see in this ballpark, I wonder what he'd do. He's wearing it out.
It'd be pretty hard to tell what he might do. This would be an ideal park for him because he can hit them from all sections. That hit, by the way, was the first surrendered by Cuellar. Now the batter is Boog Powell. He struck out in the first inning. Pirates lead 1-0 playing here in the top of the fourth. Each team in with one hit. And a tailing fastball. Blass took a little off his fastball that time. Just let it slide outside. Ball 1, no strikes to Boog. The infield shift again on Hernandez, Cash, and Robertson. All on the first base side. Blass delivers. A curveball pops him up foul, and running hard for it, Sanguin and Pagan, and they can't get to it. It fell just in front of the Oriole dugout. Pittsburgh scores now first in the 5 games of the 7. The first, the third, the fifth, the sixth, and now here the 7th. Luke Powell in with 113 career home. And with the way Pagan was playing way over on Powell, he had to run about 100 feet to get to it. 1 ball, 1 strike pitch. And there's a ball hammered down at first. Cashes over and throws out Boog Powell. That infield shift is picking him up. Now here's Frank Robinson in with 7 hits in the series. He and Brooks Robinson have the most hits for the Baltimore Orioles. Pittsburgh leading 1-0 on a booming home run hit by Bobby Clemente to left center field. Frank Robinson flied deep to right in the first inning. Playing with a heavily bandaged leg, pops this one foul up behind home plate. Sanguin drifts back, but it'll not get out on the playing field. This has been really a tremendous World Series. It started off as if Baltimore was going to blow Pittsburgh right out of the park. The 0-1 delivery is hit high and foul to the right out of play. Then, of course, Pittsburgh went back to Three River Stadium, and they turned things around, and Blass was one of the fellows that did it. And they then began a long string of scoreless innings for Baltimore, few hits per game, and very few runs, of course, and 3 straight losses in a row. Then the thrilling 10-inning victory yesterday. The 0-2 delivery, and there's a foul straight back. So, 162 games for the regular season. 3 games for Baltimore in the championship series, and 6 here, and it's all on the line for them in 1 contest. And for the Pirates, 1 more game than that, as they had to go 4 games before they could defeat the Giants for the National League Championship. The 0-2 pitch to Frank Robinson, a changeup struck him out swinging. And it looks as though Nestor Shalak said he did get a piece of it, foul-tipped it. Well, that is the 3rd strikeout for Blass, and with 2 down and none on, here's Merv Rettenmund, who bounced to short in the 2nd inning. Pirates lead 1-0 here in the bottom half of the 4th, 2 away and none on. Roberto Clemente slammed a high scoochie right into the left center slot for a home run. Blass is wide with this one for a ball. Clemente with 1 more hit will tie Bobby Richardson and Lou Brock. There's a slow chopper down to 3rd. Pagan comes on again, another short hop, and he throws out Rettenmund. And Pagan continues to scintillate over there at 3rd. 3 up and 3 down at the end of 4. Pittsburgh 1 and Baltimore nothing.
Top of the 5th inning, the Pirates are holding on to a 1-0 lead. We'll recall that as of yesterday, the Pirates are holding on to a 2-0 lead in the late innings, and Baltimore came back to take that thriller by the score of 3-2. Well, the ball game is far from over, but again,
screwball outside. Pirates have now hit 5 home runs in this World Series. Clemente for 2, Bobby Robertson with a pair. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 1-2 pitch to Sanguin is hit deep toward left center. It's going to drop in for the base hit. Looked like he hung a screwball up into his eyes, and he popped it. So Sanguin has the 2nd base hit of the ball game, and the batter will be Willie Stargell, a strikeout victim. His first time up. Home runs in the World Series, so they're even in that department. Stargell takes a fastball down low, ball 1. Despite Cuellar's delivery from the left side and Stargell being a left-hand batter, the Oriole outfield is still swung to the right. Sanguin off first, and a slow pitch upstairs, ball 2. Sanguin now has 10 base hits. He and Clemente are running at each other. Clemente in with 12. 2 balls and no strikes. 1-0 Pittsburgh with Sanguin the runner at first in the 5th. Cuellar checks Sanguin, comes to the plate, and he's outside, ball 3. Remember now that Stargell has had 7 walks in this series, and that's the first time today Cuellar has gone 3-0 to the batter. On deck is Jose Pagan. Again, Cuellar ready. Comes to the plate, and he's on the corner for a strike, and it's 3-1. Stargell taking all the way. Pittsburgh leading 1-0. Has a runner at first and Sanguillen here in the fifth. 3-ball, 1-strike delivery. No, instead of throw to first and back safely, Manny Sanguillen. And Don Leppert is now questioning the call a little bit of that move. The pitch. Stargell saw it off right at the thighs with a fastball, and the count is full, 3-2. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Sanguillen edging off first base, and a 3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. And Stargell becomes the second strikeout victim of Mike Cuellar, having been the first victim back in the second inning. Now here's Jose Pagan. Grounded to third back in the third inning. Pagan against Cuellar in the third game that they beat him 5-1. Had a double and a single in 4 at-bats. They would have had a lot of contact with each other, both here in the United States and in winter ball. And Cuellar starts him off outside, a ball and no strikes. Sanguillen held by Boog Powell. Cuellar pitching up the first base part of the rubber, sends it in. It's a chopper for the hole. Backhanding the ball is Belanger. He throws just in time for the out on Sanguillen. He's arguing. And Pagan is, of course, at first base with no play having been made. Sanguillen is arguing on the play. We have a monitor here. We'll observe it. Ground ball by Belanger in the hole. Leaping up and firing off balance while in midair. And I'll tell you on the monitor, that's a close call. But it's out. We're observing the same one. So now the batter is Hernandez. A swing and a miss. Fire target in the first game of the series, the same kind of a call out of a big inning. For Clemente then followed with a base hit and started with a walk, and instead of leading 3-0, they figured they'd have been leading 4-0. Well, those are the tough calls for everybody. In a World Series, they're magnified naturally. The 0-1 delivery outside. Mark Sanguillen out, Belanger to Johnson. Belanger had to go way in the hole, leap high in the air, and throw off balance to try to get a very speedy runner, and he did. Hernandez, 1-1. No, a quick throw instead to first where Pagan is back. One ball and 1 strike. The delivery, and a fastball in there, called strike 2. Pittsburgh, 1 run on 2 hits. The Orioles, no runs on 1 hit. Playing here in the Pirates' 5th inning. 309 down both lines. 4-10 straight away. Cuellar checking on Pagan. And the pitch to Hernandez strikes him out swinging on that screwball. So Cuellar has his 3rd strikeout. The inning, no runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a man left. And we now move to the bottom half of the 5th inning. Pittsburgh 1, Baltimore 0. Well, Jim Simpson, to bring out another cliche, we got another nail-biter going here. Here's Jim Simpson for the action from here on in.
All right, Steve Blass, first pitch, a strike on the outside corner, and Brooks has just fouled off the second pitch, Bob, to the right. It's 0-2 to Robinson, and it's 1-0 ball game. They're in the last of the 5th. The Pirates lead it. They win it. They're the world champions. Robinson walked in the second inning, got as far as second base. Drills one to right field. Clemente comes in a couple of steps, and there's the basket catch, route number 1 of the Baltimore 5th. Clemente taking about chest high with his glove and right hand nestled against his chest. Ellie Hendricks, who reached on the 3rd error of the series, charged to the Pirates. Bob Robertson's error on a ground ball between first and second. Hendricks has 3 base hits and 17 times at bat in the World Series. Does have the power to get a ball out of here. He did in the American League Championship. Long, big, and left-handed against the right-hander, Steve Blass, who is trying to win his 2nd game of this 1971 World Series and to win the series for the Pirates. Hendricks steps back in. Blass, working off the left side of the rubber, throws at it up high. Breaking pitch outside, ball 1. On deck is Mark Belanger. The only run of the ball game, a high screwball thrown to Roberto Clemente. With 2 out in the 4th inning, Clemente drilled over the left center field wall. Started to wind up and now steps off and is ready to take the signal again. ready, throws strike on the outside corner. Looks like a slider. 1 ball, 1 strike. The score in yesterday's ball game was 2-0 with the Pirates getting their runs in the second and third innings. The Orioles tying it up with single runs in the 6th and the 7th. And, of course, we went on to the 10th inning. Roberto Clemente goes over to the right and cannot get the drive with Hendricks. The ball is picked up by Kleins and thrown to second base as Hendricks steams in and has a double. Tying run at second base. Hit up the alley in right center field. Clemetti and Kleins, both of whom have fine speed. Kleins with exceptional speed, did not get to it. Here is Belanger, who hit into a double play with men at first and second and 1 out back in the second. Up with another opportunity to drive in a Baltimore run. Belanger has 4 hits and 19 times at bat. Right-handed hitter, well off the plate, close stance, looking out to Steve Blass. Blass pitching from the stretch, throws a breaking pitch, hits a straightaway center field. Kleins goes back. Hendricks makes as if to tag up. Kleins has it. Hendricks bluffs going to third base, and Kleins fires to the cutoff man, Hernandez. Hendricks goes back to second. 2 down. That'll bring up Mike Cuellar, who struck out to lead off the third inning. 1-0, the Pirates. We are in the last of the 5th. Temperature in the mid-60s. The breeze not as strong now as it was at the game's beginning. About 8 miles an hour. Well, there's no chance for rain. Blass looks down to Robertson at first base and backs him up a few stops. Cuellar does have home run power. He'll take the big swing outside with the first pitch. Ball 1 to Mike Cuellar. 1 run on 2 hits. Pirates have committed that error. Baltimore has no runs and has just picked up its second hit. Blass looks back at Hendricks and throws outside again. It's 2-0 to the pitcher, Mike Cuellar. Neither Murtaugh nor Weaver will be reluctant to go to the bullpen today. That's the first sign of need. And all pitchers are in the bullpen. 2-0. Breaking pitch. Drops over. Slider. 2 balls, 1 strike. They play Cuellar almost straight away, and Kleins rather deep in center field. Blass throws again. Swing and a miss. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes. Hendricks with a double down at second base, not taking a big lead. Ready to throw. 2-2 pitch. It's popped up foul and looks like it'll get out of play, but Pagan comes over near the Oriole dugout and then watches it drop deep in the seats downstairs.
You know, Jim Simpson, Baltimore ownership, the Hofberger family and all connected with the Baltimore club, of course, over on the third base side, and the Pirate ownership with the Galbraith family and the Johnsons and all, and it's one thing, the financial side of it doesn't mean one thing to them. They're just right up on their nerve ends. This is really a great thrill for both members of the great clubs.
2-2, and it's right down the middle. Call strike 3. Hendricks is left standing at second base. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 1 man left. We've gone through 5 full innings now, and the Pirates lead Baltimore in the 7th game of the World Series, 1-0. Back again in Baltimore, Steve Blass, Dave Cash, and Gene Kleins, and they have just dragged the infield again. And if you're not aware, they have a young girl here by the name of Linda Wareheim who runs around with a broom and dusts off the first base, second base, third base, plus the shoes of the Baltimore infielders as they're dragging it off. And usually she will come over to the third base coach of the opposition and either brush his shoes off, or on some occasion she will sweep dirt onto his shoes. Yesterday, Frank Osiak of the Pirates did not come out of the dugout until she had left. Today he was over there and very wary at watching what she was going to do. And young Miss Wareheim went up and took the broom and swatted third base coach Jim Odom right in the seat of the pants. Here is Steve Blass. Down to the second. Hello, wherever you're listening on American Forces Radio around the world or here in the United States. The score is 1-0. Top of the 6th, the Pirates hit in the deciding game of the World Series. Blass grounded to Johnson at second base back in the third. They are ready to throw, and a swinging foul. It dribbles back behind the plate and over toward the Oriole dugout. Strike 1. made one big mistake. The screwball had stayed high to Clemente in the fourth inning. That's the only run of the ball game, a home run. Ground ball right back to Cuellar, gloves it on the mound, takes his time, allows Blass to run a little bit, and then throws him out. Here's Dave Cash. Cash hit a ground ball in the first inning. It took a bad hop, handcuffed Brooks Robinson, but on a good play, Brooks threw him out. And then in the fourth inning, he sent a line drive that Davey Johnson running off to his left toward first base glove on the outfield grass. Well, Cash is 0 for 2 and 4 for 28. Stands well up in the batter's box. Cuellar throws, strike, breaking pitch. Cash, in all the time that he has been at bat in this World Series, has not struck out. One strike pitch fouled off to the right, and he has 2 strikes on it. Cash makes good bat contact. He has now been up 28 times and hasn't struck out once. On deck is the speedy Gene Clines. Playing Cash straight away, infield, straight up. Foul tip on the swing. Hendricks cannot hold on to it, and Ellie may have taken a pop on the hand. Or at least in one of his thigh muscles, is walking around. It is still 2 strikes. Hendricks walks out in front of the plate.
Jim, in that regard that you just mentioned, Cash, a very tough man to strike out. It's proven down through this season, too. Murtaugh will use him a lot on hitting and running and running and hitting. He's, with that bat control, he's not afraid to send that man.
They are ready and throws, and there's a foul tip, and this one looks as though it goes off Dave Cash's left foot. Hendricks has taken the foul tip, and now Cash takes one. Still 2 strikes to Cash with 1 out in the Pittsburgh 6th.
Well, Jim, as you said, and I said early in the show, they have all winter to rest up.
Overhand pitch, it stays outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Orioles, as Bob pointed out, will not rest up. On Wednesday, they'll climb aboard a plane and fly to Japan for about a month of exhibitions. 1 ball, 2 strikes inside. It's 2-2. And in recent years, the team that has gone to play the World Series in Japan has not been the champion. Most of the time, the runners-up. Orioles will try to break that scheme today. Swing and a miss, and we talked about his strikeouts, and Dave Cash goes down on a screwball. 4th strikeout for Cuellar, and here's Gene Clines. Hit the first pitch in the first inning and drove Bretland deep in center field to haul in his line drive, and then bunted. Cuellar made the fine fielding play in the 4th and threw him out. He was not sacrificing. He was trying to bunt his way on base. Clines very fast. Cuellar ready to throw, and Clines goes for an outside low pitch, swinging and missing. 1-0, the Pirates. Baltimore crowd quiet here, waiting for their team to come back. Another swing and a miss by Clines. And as yesterday, when we had a little bit more than 44,000 here, which is about 8,000 below capacity, today we are also playing to a below-capacity crowd at Memorial Stadium. 2 strikes to Clines, who fouls it, and it goes off his bat. And he'll have to come back. The ball bounced out in the fair territory, but Lester Shylock, as he's done on several occasions today, very quick to call it foul and in a hurry. On deck is Roberto Clemente with 2 outs. Clemente has 12 World Series hits. The record held by 2 men, Bobby Richardson and Lou Brock. Clemente will have at least a couple more shots in this game. Fastball is low and away. 1 ball, 2 strikes. I think we pointed this out the last time Cuellar pitched up in Pittsburgh. He is known for a screwball, but his out pitch is his fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Comes back with a screwball. It stays outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 0-2 to Clines, now 2-2. Clines only played in 97 games, but still led the Pirates in stolen bases with 15. Swings and misses, and Cuellar strikes out 2 of the 3 men he faces. And that's his 5th strikeout. No runs, hits, or errors. We go to the last of the 6th. With a score, the Pirates 1, and the Orioles nothing.
We are moving now into the Baltimore 6th inning, and their terrific leadoff batter, Don Buford, will be standing in. He has walked and singled thus far. Pirates leading the Orioles 1-0, and as Jim Simpson, I think, pointed out earlier, in fact, I'm sure he did, Buford enjoys the reputation of being about the best leadoff hitter in all of the American League.
And certainly in Baltimore history, Bob, and Buford, as you said, has walked and singled and been picked off in this ball game, and Buford led the American League in runs scored this year with 98, and of course that is the mark of a 5 leadoff man. And Buford in this World Series has 2 home runs off a right-hander by the name of Bob Moose. Buford wore Moose out. 1-0 the score. Steve Blass ready to throw to Buford switch hitter who watches a strike at the knee. Blass, as we told you when we came on the air, in a pregame interview said that he was thrilled to have this chance to win the 7th game of the World Series. He said so many pitchers have the talent to do it, but not many get the chance, and he's glad to have it. Breaking pitch, Buford grounds it foul past George Stoller, the coach at first base.
He also said, however, that you wouldn't have heard this on the team bus going back to one of our reporters, or the Pittsburgh reporters, that he would like to throw his next pitch in spring training in Bradenton to Roberto Clemente. He felt there would not be quite as much pressure.
Buford has been on base 5 times in a row and 6 times in his last 7 times at bat in the series. 2-strike pitch just misses outside. And ball 2 strikes to Buford. Pirates lead it by a run, the only run of the ball game, Roberto Clemetti's home run. Back in the 4th inning. Clemetti's second home run of the series. Breaking pitch blocked inside in the dirt. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes to Buford. The Pirates have used every single one of their men, all 25 on the roster. The Orioles have used 21 of their 25, with Chico Simone, Jerry DeVannen, Kurt Moten, and Clay Dalrymple not used yet. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fans would like a run. Blass throws, fouled back. It's still 2-2 to Buford. Jay Mazzone, the youngster, now ready for college, who lost both hands in a flash fire when he was about 2 years old, has been the bat boy of the Orioles for many years, is retiring after this year, wants to go on to State Teachers College and wind up teaching mathematics. Great advertisement for what a handicapped person could do, the bat boy of Baltimore, Mazzone. A curve change just does miss outside to Buford, and it has the Baltimore fans gasping. 3 balls, 2 strikes as Buford took it all away. 3-2 pitch, fastball, out to center field. Kleins comes in a couple of steps, now backs up 1 or 2 and has it for the first out of the 6th. That'll bring up Dave Johnson, who is 0 for 2. Last time up, hit the ball very sharply, but Pagan made a fine play on the short hop to throw him out. Bob Prince was talking about Pittsburgh pitchers. Bruce Kison, the young 21-year-older who will be married tonight, and Bob Moose, the right-hander who will be his best man. They'll be picked up by a helicopter arranged by the Baltimore Orioles, taken to Friendship Airport in Baltimore, and flown on to the wedding tonight. Kison ready to throw to Johnson. Throws, high pop-up to the infield. Hernandez at shortstop says he has it. Waiting for it to come down and has it. And now, as Bob was saying, that Kison may take some kidding. Boog Powell coming up about scheduling a wedding on the 7th day of the World Series. I know a broadcaster who broadcast a title fight on the night he was married. And went on to become the voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's plenty. Here's Powell, 0 for 2. He can tie the game up with 1 swish of the bat. Takes a strike on the outside corner. And Powell, before striking out back in the 1st inning, scared Steve Blass with a couple of sharp, ripped line drives foul down the right field line. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 error for the Pirates. No runs, 2 hits, no errors for the Orioles. We are in the last of the 6th. Big curve misses outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's that change that Blass likes to get established early. Blass and Cuellar have both done super jobs here through the first 6 innings of this deciding World Series game. Blass ready. Swing and a miss. Strike 2 to Powell. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The pitchers have made few mistakes along the way. Cuellar made the big one, the high screwball to Clemente for the home run. The pitching has been so good that neither the Pirates nor the Orioles have had any activity at all out on the bullpen. Staring into the big left-handed Boog Powell out of Miami, Florida, and throws another curve and strikes him out swinging. No runs, hits or errors. We've gone through 6 full innings, and the Pirates lead the Orioles 1-0.
Well, with Jim Simpson, Bob Prince here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where the Pirates have the lead, 1-0. They've had 2 hits, but one of them left the park when Bobby Clemente smashed a home run in the 4th inning over the left center wall. His 12th hit of the series. He needs 1 more to tie a mark of 13 by Bobby Richardson and Lou Brock. And he's coming to the plate right now. It's been a tremendous duel of pitching. And certainly Roberto Clemente, despite what's been written about him around here, that he doesn't particularly like this field and everything, is responding like the true champion that he is. And this has been a great duel thus far and still has a long way to go, Jim.
Bob, you might say that the Baltimore fans are responding like champions also. They gave Mr. Clemetti quite an ovation as he stepped up. They can recognize great talent when they see it. Clemetti hits a high screw ball on the first pitch for a home run in the fourth inning and swings on the first pitch here and drills it straight away to center field. Retman has only to move a couple of steps and takes the line drive. And that allows the Orioles to breathe a little bit easier for at least another 8 batters. Clemetti doesn't come up again. Bob Robertson has lined to Brooks Robinson, hitting the first pitch, sharply hit ball off Cuellar, and then grounded to Brooks, again hitting the first pitch in the fourth inning. So Robinson has been retired twice by Cuellar on 2 pitches. 1-0, the Pirates, 7th inning. Time running out for the Orioles. Pirates holding on to a very tenuous 1-run lead. Strike, as this time Robertson takes the pitch, not swinging on the first one as he's done. Robertson, the big right-hander with that big uppercut swing that can get the ball out of here in a hurry. Swing and a miss. It's strike 2. Robertson is 4 for 20, but has batted in a bundle of runs with his 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. Swing and a miss, and on 3 pitches, Cuellar strikes him out swinging. Cuellar has now struck out 6 men, and 3 of the last 4 that he has faced. Here is Manny Sanguillen. Robinson played one off his chest at third base to throw him out in the 2nd inning, and then Sanguillen singled in the 5th and was nabbed on a force play, and a very close force play at second base on a fine throw by Mark Melandri. They are kneeling, or rather bending forward, ready before Sanguillen even steps in. Hand with the ball in his glove, just waiting. Sanguillen is now ready, and Cuellar is ready to throw. There's a ball hit to right field. In comes Frank Robinson. Now he drifts back and off to his left, and Cuellar has a very easy inning. A run hit to errors, none less. We go to the last of the 7th. The Pirates lead the Orioles 1-0.
With Jim Simpson, Bob Prince here from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, where the Orioles will be coming to bat. Here in the 7th inning, Frank Robinson, Merv Retman, and Brooks Robinson. Steve Blass, no runs on 2 hits through 6 innings. Mike Cuellar, 1 run on 2 hits through 7 innings. So we have a real great one going here. And to bring you right along in the action, here is Jim Simpson.
All right, Bob, and here's Frank Robinson, 0 for 2 today, playing with that right leg heavily bandaged. But as Robinson, who 2 days ago said, we've got to show the kind of team we are, we've got to pick ourselves up. With his base running yesterday, he scored the winning run. Last ready to throw, and he checks swings on a breaking pitch, pops it up to Cash at second base, who takes it and is 1 out. Frank quickly eliminates himself by checking a swing and popping up to Cash at second base. 1-0 the score, and we are in the last of the 7th. Here is Retman. Hernandez threw him out on the 2nd. Pagan made a fine play on him in the 4th to throw him out. Retman has the World Series home run. 4 RBIs. They play him very deep and straight away. Hernandez over near second base. Curveball outside, and it's ball 1. Orioles need a run to tie. Blass, who beat them 5-1 in the 3rd game, is looking just superlative this afternoon. He has struck out 5. He has walked 2. He has allowed 2 base hits, a single and a double. Last ready to throw, breaking pitch, popped up, foul, and off to the right and out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Orioles were shut out Thursday afternoon, managed 3 runs yesterday to win, and have none through 6 1/3 innings today. 1 ball, 1 strike, pitches up high, 2-1 to Retman, with Brooks Robinson on deck. We have some activity in the Baltimore bullpen now. If they get something going, Cuellar undoubtedly will be batted for. There's a long way to go. Robinson is out. Retman, the number 5 hitter, is up. 2 balls, 1 strike. Back and throws a strike at the knees. A couple of right-handers, Pat Dobson and Dave Leonard, up and throwing. Blass now working a little more slowly, ready with a 2-2 and throws. It's high, and Retman almost took a full cut at it, checked his swing, and it's 3 balls, 2 strikes. Blass went 3-2 on Buford in the 1st inning, and also on Powell. 3-1 to Brooks in the 2nd. 3-2 on Buford in the third, and since that time has been getting the pitches over and making them hit it. Now he's up to 3-2 again. Throws, bouncing ball. Hernandez playing in perfectly by second base, and the shortstop throws him out. 2 down in the Baltimore 7th in this 1-0 ball game that the Pirates lead. And here comes Brooks Robinson, and the Baltimore fans look to him for some heroics. Brooks walked in the second and fly to right in the fifth. Robinson has not had the long ball in the World Series, but he has had 7 hits and 21 times at bat and driven in 5 runs. There's a bouncing ball to Hernandez at shortstop, and he's got plenty of time to throw him out. That's one of the easiest innings of Steve Blass, as he got the 4, 5, and 6 hitters. Runs, hits, or errors. Now we've gone through 7 full innings, and those Pirates, hopefully for them, are edging closer to the World Championship. They lead 1-0.
With Jim Simpson, Bob Prince from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, where Stargell, Pagan, and Hernandez will go to Cuellar here in the 8th. And with Dobson and Leonard warming up, and Cuellar, the third scheduled batter in the 8th, of course, manager Earl Weaver wishes to be ready. It's anybody's ball game, and here's Jim Simpson.
Mike Cuellar has struck out 6 men, including Stargell twice, and each time he has struck him out with a fastball on 3 straight pitches in the second inning, and on a 3-2 count threw the fastball by him in the 5th. Cuellar throws, it is down low to Stargell. Ball 1. 8th inning, 1-0, the Pirates. Clemetti's home run in the 4th, the only run of the ball game. Cuellar ready, takes something off the breaking pitch. It's outside, 2-0. Earl Weaver said before the game, going into the 7th inning in Pittsburgh, Cuellar was leading trailing 2-1. He said, I'd take that same kind of performance today. Cuellar back, it's fouled off to the right. Well, Mike has not allowed 2 runs, only 1 run through 7 innings now, but the Orioles have not been allowed a run by Steve Blass. 2-1. Cuellar throws, ground ball toward the hole, under the glove of Belanger and on out into left center field, and Stargell rounds first. Base hit.
You know, Jim Simpson, Steve Blass was quoted as having said, he went over the scouting reports very carefully, of course, on the Baltimore club. But he noticed one thing while awaiting his opportunity to pitch that was not in the scouting report that he felt would stand him in good stead when he pitched. He went to manager Murtaugh, and Danny said, well, if that's the way you feel, stay with it.
Pagan, the batter, 0 for 2. It's ball 1. Did he say what it was?
No, that he wouldn't do, and I presume it's because he felt that this game 7th might be necessary, and it turned out to be exactly that.
1-0 to Pagan, who is 0 for 2 today. Stargell on at first base, none out in the Pirate 8th, and there's a swing and a miss at a high fastball from Cuellar, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Pirates have 1 run on 3 hits and an error that didn't cost them a thing. Baltimore, no runs, 2 hits, and no errors. Belanger was pulled around towards second base for the left-hander Stargell. Willie grounded it to Belanger's right. He went over and tried to backhand it. The ball scooted right under his glove for a base hit. Drive center field. Bretman on his horse, going back. It is back near the warning track. Bounces up against the wall. Stargell is on his way around third base. Bretman throws to the cutoff man, Belanger. Belanger throws on toward home. Hendricks waits. It's cut off by Powell. 2-0, Pirates. In the second with a double goes Pagan.
And Jim, as you described that, watching the flight of the ball, and Earl Weaver is now coming out. Stargell actually stopped at second base. Your eyes, of course, would be glued out there to see whether or not Redmond was going to catch it. Stargell stopped at second, and from our position, you and I both know that ball's not catchable, but down in the field, that is not the case. And he had to hustle, as you described, to get in there, even though they cut the throw off right in front of home plate.
2 runs on 4 hits and 1 error now, and we are in the top of the 8th inning of the 7th ball game of the World Series, and you've heard all those cliches that have been said over the years. We read a couple of them to you at the outset of the broadcast. There's no tomorrow. Have all winter to rest everybody in the bullpen, but at the moment, Earl Weaver's going to stick with Mike Cuellar. Right-handers warming up. Hernandez due up, and Cuellar with the 8 and 9 batters in the lineup due up is going to stay in there.
Number 2, checking.
Pagan, you'll recall, doubled in the 3rd game of this World Series off Mike Cuellar and drove in a run, and he's driven another run today. 2-0. Stargell led it off with a single under the glove. Pagan's long drive, double off the left center field wall, scored him. Hernandez trying to move him along with the bunt. Bunt's foul off to the right of the plate. Rickard and Watt are now the 2 pitchers warming. Dobson and Leonard have taken a seat in the Baltimore bullpen. Earl Weaver called the Orioles the best team in the history of Major League Baseball. Danny Murtaugh said his team was underestimated. Another attempted bunt fouled back by Hernandez. At the moment, it is the Pirate fans who have the chance to feel good, not comfortable, long way from the end yet.
I wouldn't know how, Jim Simpson, you could feel comfortable against a team like the Baltimore Orioles, and certainly in the National League, and you saw them enough times to know the same would hold true, against a team like the San Francisco Giants and the Atlanta Braves. You just can't feel it's over until you're in the locker room.
Hernandez back in, ready to dig in with a 2-strike count. Puts down to Frank Osiak at third base. Now let's see what the pitcher do up. He's still trying to move the man along. Fly to right field. Frank Robinson goes back. Pagan goes to tag. Robinson takes a one-handed throw, throws on to third base, and Pagan wisely stays at second as Robinson bounces one on one hop to Brooks Robinson at third base. And that'll bring up Steve Blass, who's done quite a job. He has shut out the Orioles through 7 innings on 2 base hits, has struck out 5 and walked 2. Pagan down at second with 1 out and 1 run in. The Pittsburgh bullpen is on its feet, not to warm up, but to watch the ball game. Cuellar throws, ground ball toward Robinson, foul territory, gloves it just off third base. And Blass, who sprinted across first base, now must turn around and walk back. Pirates have won this World Series 3 times before, 1909, 1925, and 1960. They lost the first one ever played in 1903, and again in 1927. Baltimore has won 2 World Series, in 1966 and 1970, and lost to the Mets in 1969. Baltimore has managed 5 hits off Steve Blass in 16 innings, and they've managed 1 run. He won 5-1 at Pittsburgh. He is leading 2-0 here in the top of the 8th in Baltimore. Blass is back and ready now with a 1-strike count. Pagan leads off at second. Play by Blass to the opposite field. Swings at a low pitch. It's strike 2. Ball was almost in the dirt. Skies have brightened considerably, although remaining overcast since the beginning of this game. Cuellar back and throws. Ground ball right back to Cuellar. Keeps Pagan at second. Tosses on to Boog Powell, and it's 2 out in the Pirate 8th. That'll bring up Dave Cash. Thrown out by Robinson in the first. Line to Johnson in the fourth, and struck out swinging in the 6th. The first strikeout for Cash in his 29th time at bat in the World Series. Pirates lead it 2-0. Cuellar ready to throw. Ground ball toward Brooks Robinson. Very slowly hit. Robinson up with it. Throws on to first base. Dug out of the dirt on another fine play by Boog Powell. Powell has really hauled a couple out of the dirt now to save base hits and turn them into outs. 1 run on 2 base hits. No errors, and Pagan left down at second base. For the last of the 8th week, the Pirates lead the Orioles 2-0.
With Jim Simpson, Bob Prince here from Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, where the Pirates have the lead of 2-0 as we go to the bottom half of the 8th. Earl Weaver has switched back to Pat Dobson and Dave Leonard, as Cuellar is the scheduled 3rd batter in this inning. Something could happen, of course, to change his thinking right there. Jim?
Bob, 11 years ago, you went down and didn't see Mazeroski's home run when the Pirates won it. You go down to the dressing room for possible celebration. Yesterday, you went down with a score 2-1 the Pirates, and the Orioles won it. And I'll say goodbye to you now as you go down with a score 2-0 the Pirates, as Hendrick steps in and takes the strike.
I'll just say this as I leave. Jim, certainly have enjoyed very much working with you, and I want to thank you very much. It's been a real thrill, regardless of the outcome of this series.
Thank you, Bob Prince. Ball has bounced into the dirt to Hendricks, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-0 the score. We are in the last of the 8th. Hendricks Belanger, undoubtedly a pinch hitter, as the Orioles, Earl Weaver, needs some runs to tie it up. And the Oriole fans are well aware, as you are, of the situation. Time is running out. Blast back with the fastball in under the hands. It's 2 balls, 1 strike. The last time that a pitcher had a shutout in the final game of the series was 5 years ago when Dave McNally of the Orioles did it to the Dodgers, winning 1-0 right here in this ballpark. 2-1, breaking pitch. It is a foul ball, gloved by Robertson. down and back of first base, and it's 2 balls, 2 strikes. The last time that a 7-game World Series ended in a shutout was when Sandy Koufax of the Dodgers, now with NBC, we're happy to say, and eligible for the Hall of Fame next year, in 1965, shut out the Minnesota Twins 2-0 at Minnesota. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Hendricks. Belanger on deck. Blass, who did quite a bit of walking around the mound in the 3rd game up in Pittsburgh when he won that game, 5-1, has walked around the mound again and is now ready to throw to Hendricks. Fastball up the middle under the glove of Cash, base hit. Hendricks makes a wide turn, and Ellie, who has reached on an error and a double, is on again, this time with a single. The 3rd hit given up by Steve Blass. Now, quickly, the Pirates bullpen begins to stir, and this time I think they're going to go to work. They've been standing up watching the masterpiece of Blass. Blass gave up a total of 3 hits in that 5-1 win and has now surrendered his 3rd hit here. Here's Mark Belanger, 0 for 2, hit into a double play and line to center. Pirates lead at 2-0. We're in the last of the 8th of the last game of the World Series. Blass throws. Belanger tried to check his swing, does not. It's strike 1. Tom Chopay, who has batted a couple times before as a pinch hitter, out and on deck to bat for Cuellar. Chopay is 0 for 4. Blass throws outside low, blocked by Sanguilla. Hendricks not going anywhere. One ball, 1 strike. Blass pitching, of course, from the stretch, comes back, foul back to the screen. It's 1-2 to Belanger. Belanger, during the regular season, a .266 hitter. In this series, he is 4 for 20. One ball, 2 strikes. Blass ready. Ground ball up the middle and gets through. Hendricks almost is going to be stopped at second base. They had to wait. The ball was a little looper, took a hop. Hendricks didn't know whether or not it was going to be caught. And so stopped at first base, and then finally as the ball got through and bounced on into the outfield, Hendricks went down to second base, and they got the leadoff man on with none out. Luke Walker, left-hander, up and throwing as Chopay comes in. The tying runs are on. Chopay, not a home run hitter, is up. He has been up 4 times in the World Series, each time as a pinch hitter, and has not had a base hit. The Pirates believe he's up there to bunt to move the runners along. Chopay, a little left-handed batter, crouches, takes inside under the hands, and he wasn't looking to bunt then. Ball 1. On deck, John Buford. Pirates 2, Baltimore nothing. The Orioles' best chance in the last of the 8th. Back again, it's at the knees of the fastball. Strike 1. 1 ball, 1 strike. He looked down, Billy Hunt, coach at third. This is the 5th time Tom Chopay has been up, and that ties the series record. As we said, he has not been successful as a pinch hitter thus far. Hendricks is second, Belanger first. Blass, he squares around the bunt. Good bunt. Blass has to go to first base. The runners move up on the sacrifice bunt. I am sure they're not about to put Don on the winning run on base. And now with this, the Oriole broadcasters, Bob Prince's left us, Bill O'Donnell.
Jim, on that bunt by Chopay, I believe I saw Sanguilla bark out the Blass and then also point toward third. I think we've got to play at third base. Maybe Blass did not see him yell. That's why Blass went to first. Okay, Jim.
Blass ready to throw to Buford. There's 1 for 2 plus a walk. He fouls it back. Strike 1. Blass, as you said, Bill, may have had a play at third base, but of course the one thing you do not want to happen is to lose the out. So Blass went for the out and to keep the potential winning run off. Buford in with a 1-strike count. Throws, it's blowing away. It's 1 ball, 1 strike to Buford. Hendricks on at third. Belanger at second. There's one out in the last of the eighth. The Pirates lead it by 2. This is the first time that the Orioles have had a man as far as third base. Now there are 2 20-game winners warming up for the Orioles. Dave McNally, winner twice here, and Pat Dobson. Fastball that is fouled back, 1 ball, 2 strikes. So Walker and Jusky in the Pirate bullpen, and McNally and Dobson in the Oriole bullpen. And the count 1-2 to Don Buford. Waiting on deck, Dave Johnson. Blass staring in at Buford. Throws, breaking pitch, grounded toward Robertson at first base. 1 run comes in. It's 2-1 as Robertson steps on the bag, and moving to third is Belanger. Pirates 2, Baltimore 1. We're in the last of the eighth, and Johnson, who has 3 RBIs, 0 for 3 today, however, has a chance to tie up the ballgame. Pagan is over on the third base side of the mound talking to Steve Blass. Manny Sanguillen walks out in front of the mound, looking to see what Dave Johnson will do, what the Orioles will try with a tying run on at third base.
Jim, Johnson is somewhat in a similar situation as he was yesterday, although he knocked on the tie run from second base. Right now, he's in a similar situation, tie run at third.
Last throws blown away to Johnson, ball 1. The on-deck batter, Big Boog Powell. The Orioles have come alive late in the ballgame. Hendricks led off the eighth with a single. Belanger followed with a single. Chopay sacrificed them along. Buford didn't field, grounded to Robertson at first. Scored the run. Ball accidentally checked and fouled off to the right. One ball, 1 strike to Dave Johnson. Well, we'll go back to what was said before the World Series began. This should be a super series. Whether the Pirates win it or the Orioles win it, it's been fulfilled. This has been a super series and still is. 1 ball, 1 strike. Last throw, strike, a slider on the outside corner. Johnson looked as though he were going to offer at it and then decided it might be outside the strike zone, but takes it to strike 2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Tying run 90 feet away, standing on at third base is Mark Belanger. Blass walks off the mound and calls out Sanguillen. This is an occurrence that we saw happen in the third game quite frequently. As a matter of fact, the Pirates do this quite frequently in the National League Championships. They must have had a dozen or more conferences every ball game between catcher and pitcher. So now Nestor Shylock is going out saying, "Gentlemen, break this thing up." 1 ball, 2 strikes to Johnson. Sanguillen back, moves, or rather Blass walking around behind the mound, now strides up on the mound, cleans off the pitching rubber. With a count of 1-2, stares into Sanguillen for the sign. He's ready. Johnson takes inside, checks his swing. It's 2-2. Davey looks down to Billy Hunter, the third base coach. Pirates lead it by a run, last of the eighth.
Together with Jim Simpson and Bob Brink, this is Bill O'Donnell before we go to the top of the 9th inning. The Pirates lead in the ball game 2-1. And for the second straight day, an Oriole 20-game winner is a late inning reliever, namely Pat Dobson. Dobson came on in the top of the 10th inning yesterday when the ball game was locked up at 2-2. He faced 4 men, then gave way for McNally before Baltimore won it in the bottom of the 10th inning. Now it's Dobson replacing Mike Cuellar. Cuellar can only be the loser as he leaves the ball game with the Pirates leading the Orioles 2-1. Cuellar traveled the first 8 innings, gave up the 2 Pirate runs along with 4 base hits, and he struck out 6. In the top of the 9th against Dobson, it'll be the right-hand swinging Kleins, Clemente, and Robertson.
Kleins lined to center field deep in the first, bunted, and was thrown out in the 4th and struck out in the 6th. Dobson, of course, will try to keep the Pirates within a run, and the Orioles will have one more chance to try and catch the Pirates. Dobson ready with the first pitch. It's a slider over. Strike 1. In the Baltimore 9th, if you care to look ahead, Boog Powell, Frank Robinson, and Merv Rittman. Dobson, the right-hander, to throw to the right-handed hitter, and a breaking pitch stays inside, and Kleins ducks under it. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. Dave Leonard, who has thrown a lot in the bullpen, and some in this World Series, is warming up, and Dave McNally still for the Orioles. Pitches outside and low. Kleins did not go around. It is 2 balls, 1 strike. Pirate bullpen, for the moment at least, no one is throwing. Roberto Clemente's on deck as Dobson throws. Ground ball right up the middle. Belanger back at second base. Quick sidearm throw, and he has got the speedy Kleins in a fine play.
Jim, reputedly, Kleins has the greatest speed among the Pirates from home plate down to first base. So Belanger, who had a range quite a bit to his glove side, had to make a slightly off-balance, hurried toss to get Kleins at the bat.
Here is Roberto Clemente. Has homered in this ball game, has been thrown out and lined to Retman in center field. His home run in the 4th was the first run of the ball game of this 2-1 game, which the Pirates lead. He has hit safely in all 14 World Series appearances. Had 1 more base hit, and he'll tie a record for the most hits in the series. Breaking pitch is down low from Dobson, ball 1. 13 base hits by Bobby Richardson and Lou Brock, and Clemente now has 12. Clemente has made a lot of believers out of American League followers what kind of ball player he is. Low and away, it is 2-0. Now Dave Leonard has sat down in the Baltimore bullpen, and another right-hander takes his place along with McNally. Eddie Watt. Dobson ready and throws and misses outside the strike zone. It is 3-0. Pirates 2, Baltimore 1. We are in the top of the 9th for the last game of the World Series. Dobson working quickly, throws a strike on the outside corner. 3 balls, 1 strike. Clemente was taking all the way. On deck is big Bob Robertson. Dobson will have his work cut out for him in facing Clemente, Robertson, and possibly Sanguillen to keep this ball game within reach. The 3-1 pitch from Pat Dobson. Foul to the screen, 3-2. Baltimore won games 1 and 2 here at Memorial Stadium. Then we moved on to Three Rivers Stadium. In games 3, 4, and 5, it was the Pirates. Yesterday in 10 innings, Baltimore were all tied at 3 games apiece, and this is the decider. Clemente waiting on the 3-2 pitch from Pat Dobson with 1 out in the 9th. Here's the pitch. He reaches outside, protecting the plate, and fouls it off to the right. Roberto did not take a big swing, simply put the bat on the outside of the plate and checked it off to the right side. Well, they played him around to right during the entire series. He's boomed a triple and a home run to left center. Now here's another foul to the right. Clemente can pull the ball. And you know, when we talk about the 1960 series, the series that was won in 7 games by the Pirates, on the home run by Mazeroski, Bill Mazeroski, who has not appeared in this series, was the first man in the batting cage for the Pirates today. And he rifled 5 into the left field seats. First 5 pitches. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Dobson ready. Breaking pitch, strikes out Clemente. Change up curve to Roberto Clemente, and Dobson strikes him out. Well, he had him 3-0. He took 3-1. Was swinging on 3-2, then fouled off a couple of pitches, and the slow curve got Roberto Clemente. So unless we go to extra innings, we'll fall 1 hit short of the series record for hits of Bobby Richardson and Lou Brock. Right now, the Pirates, though, still lead by a run. We're in the 9th inning. Here's Bob Robertson swinging and missing on the first pitch. Robinson struck out the last time up. He is 0 for 3. First time up, he hit a ball sharply to Robinson at third base. That's Bob Robertson hitting to Brooks Robinson at third base. Pat Dobson ready and throws a breaking pitch, and Bob Robertson just did get a little piece of that as he swung hard, but it just slipped off the top of his bat and back to the screen. Foul, strike 2. Manny Sanguillen on deck. 2 runs, 4 hits, 1 error for the Pirates. 1 run, 4 hits, no errors for the Orioles. Dobson ahead of Robertson, throws him a change up high. It's 1 ball, 2 strikes. Robertson has a couple of home runs and 5 RBIs in the World Series. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Curve just misses inside. Ball started out on Robinson's left shoulder and ducked back inside, but did not drop over the inside corner of the plate. It's 2-2. McNally and Watt continue to warm. Dobson throws. Fastball misses outside. Well, you talk about George Blanda, the old quarterback of the National Football League, 43 years old. The Pittsburgh runs today have been knocked in by 37-year-old Roberto Clemente and 36 years old Jose Pagan, both born and live in Puerto Rico. 3-2, and there's a drive down the left field line. Buford pulled over, gloves it out on the warning track, and holds Robertson to a long single down near the left field corner. That's the fifth base hit for the Pirates, and the first off Dobson. 2 out in the ninth, 2-1 the score, and here's Manny Sanguillen. Robinson threw him out on a bad hopper off Brooks's chest in the second. Sanguillen single to left. It was dipped in the close force play in the fifth, and fly to Robinson in right in the seventh. Dobson throws, it's outside, ball 1. Big Willie Starcher. He is on deck. Dobson ready, throws a fastball, catches the outside corner, 1 ball, 1 strike. Lights have been on throughout the entire ball game, but the skies have brightened considerably here in Baltimore. As Dobson pitching from the stretch to the crouching Sanguillen, who fouls it off upstairs to the right side. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bob Robertson walks back to first base, where he's being held by Boog Powell. Baseball is over after today, but not for the Orioles, who on Wednesday will fly on to Tokyo to play about 3 or 4 weeks of exhibition games with those fine Japanese teams. They'd like to go to Japan a winner. At the moment, they're on the short end. A 2-1 game. They're down by a run. Change down low. It is 2 balls, 2 strikes to Sanguillen. At Pirate bullpen, most all of them are up and leaning against the fence or standing against the fence out there in right center field. Dobson taking his time and working very carefully to Sanguillen. Now is ready. Throws a curveball, bounced. Robinson charges from third base, picks it up, fires on to first base, safe. Very slow roller, and here on the Baltimore infield, which has had its share of rain and play, Robinson had to come all the way in for it. It was not like the artificial turf in Pittsburgh, where the ball would have flipped out much quicker to him, and so Earl Weaver is out with 2 out, and Stargell due up, and I would imagine Dave McNally might get another call. McNally, the good left-hander, to face Stargell, the great left-handed home run hitter. And Dobson is on his way out. McNally came in yesterday in a situation very similar, with 2 men on and 2 men out as they are today. Runners at second and third, and or rather first and second, and walked Starcher. And Dave is being called on again. Bill O'Donnell?
Well, it's very unusual, Jim, as we both pointed out yesterday together with Bob Princeton in the World Series game, and naturally today's even more crucial than yesterday's, that you have 2 consecutive days. You have 3 20-game winners appear in a ball game. Yesterday it was Palmer, Dobson, and McNally. And this afternoon in Game 7, it is Cuellar plus now Dobson in the 9th, followed by McNally also in the 9th inning. Now, a slightly different situation from McNally's appearance this afternoon than from yesterday. McNally came on with Stargell, plus another left-hand batter after Willie Stargell, Al Oliver, also a left-hand batter. He comes on right now with Willie Stargell, the left-hand batter, with runners at first and second, Sanguillen and Robertson, and to follow Stargell is a right-hand batter, Jose Pagan. So you got managerial brains, I'm sure, twisting in both the dugouts. Weaver has been twisting his brain, bringing on McNally to face the left-hand power of Stargell. And I wonder if Murtaugh right now might be twisting his brains, wondering that if Stargell gets on and should the bases be loaded, what would he do with Pagan? I would assume naturally to have Pagan bat because he'd have the right-hander going against McNally. By the same token, with Weaver going back to the Baltimore dugout, if Stargell should get on and Pagan, the right-hand batter, do after Stargell, would he go to his bullpen where he has Eddie Watt warming, and I believe Tom Dukes has also joined Eddie Watt. It is not Dukes that changed that, it's Dave Leonard. Leonard is up again warming with Watt. All right, Jim.
And if you want to go a little bit farther, if that should happen, would Murtaugh go back to the bench to Al Oliver? Well, what happens now is Robertson's at second base, Sanguine at first, 2 out in the 9th inning. Pirates lead it 2-1, and here's Willie Stargell. Last time up, he singled and scored ahead by the double by Jose Pagan. The first 2 times up, Stargell, who hit 48 home runs during the regular season, struck out. Sun has at last broken through at Memorial Stadium. McNally throws, ground ball toward the second baseman. Johnson down to one knee, throws on and on 1 pitch. McNally's got it. A run, 2 hits, no errors, and 2 left. And now we go to the 9th inning. Boog Powell, Frank Robinson, and Merv Rettenmund, and the Orioles' last chance. Pittsburgh leads Baltimore 2-1.
We're down perhaps to the final inning in the 7th game of the 1971 World Series, and Baltimore has the power part of its attack coming up against right-hander Steve Blass. Blass and the Pirates lead the Orioles by a score of 2-1. Powell is hitless in his 7th game. Frank Robinson is the next due man. He is hitless. And then the third man due, Merv Rettenmund, he is also hitless.
Now, you're right, Bill. If the Orioles should lose this, they can't say afterwards they didn't have it their full shot in the 9th inning. They got the 3, 4, 5 batters. Blass ready to throw to big Boog Powell. A slow curve drops over, strike 1. Powell is 0 for 3 today, but as we said, ripped a couple of vicious line fouls down the right field line back in the 1st inning. Powell during the regular season had 22 home runs. Mike Robinson during the regular season had 28. Merv Rettenmund 11. Powell deep in the batter's box. Blass throws another breaking pitch, but this one is high and away, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Those Pirates continue to stand out, leaning against the fence. Nobody working out there. They're leaving it up to Steve Blass, who won the 3rd game 5-1 on a 3-hitter and leads 2-1 in the last of the 9th here on a 4-hitter. 1 ball, 1 strike. Big curve, drilled foul, pulled deep in the seats in right field. Foul way out in front and picks up some dirt in anger and throws it away. He was too far out in front of the ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Orioles won the first 2 games. The Pirates the next 3. Baltimore yesterday in 10 innings, and this is it. Blass ready. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Big curve, and it is down low. Thus far, Blass has not challenged Powell with the fastball here in the 9th inning. He has thrown him 4 breaking pitches. 3 of them, he has taken something off those breaking pitches. Pirates 2, Orioles 1, last of the 9th. Count is 2-2 to Boog Powell. Steve Blass throws. There's the fastball, and it's grounded on 2 hops to Cash. At second base, throws on to Robertson, and there's 1 out in the Baltimore 9th. The Pirates are 2 outs away from their 4th World Series win. But here is Frank Robinson, 0 for 3. Robinson, as we said, handicapped. But he is the man that sparked the winning run in the 10th yesterday. He is the man that sparked the initial rally in the first game with a home run and has 2 home runs in this series. And a total of 7 hits in 24 attempts. Hops it up. Back goes Hernandez. Nobody else near him. Hernandez in short left field, and it's 2 outs. And that leaves it squarely up to Merv Rettenmund. The Pirates now 1 out away from a clubhouse celebration. The Orioles, picked by most to win the World Series, still are within a run. 1 swing of the bat can tie it up. But Steve Blass has allowed a total of 2 runs and 7 hits in 17 and 2/3 innings. Breaking pitch, slider over. Pagan is in at third base and very close to the line, guarding against that extra base hit. Hernandez is over near second base. Big hole between third and short. 1 strike pitch to Rettenmund. Right up the middle. Hernandez in back of second base. Throws from there, and that's the series. Pittsburgh wins. Most of these fans simply stand idly by, disappointed. Their Orioles, the favorites, have lost. But the Pirate bullpen empty. They're in around Bob Robinson, and especially around Steve Blass.
And now they make their way toward the dugout. As we hear that the World Series Sports Car Award winner goes to guess who? Roberto Clemente, who had all of those base hits, 12 in all, including a home run today. Well, there's riotism down in the Pirate dressing room. It's already going on. Let's go down and join Bob Prince and all those down there.
Congratulate you and your players, and Steve Blass and your whole club.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't believe there's been a better play series since I've been around anyway. I'm deeply grateful.
Danny Murtaugh, let me step in here for just a moment. 1960, you performed the impossible, and you did it again. Congratulations here in 1971.
Thank you, Bob.
Steve Blass, who pitched such a great game. Steve, coming in here with chairman of the board, Mr. John Galbraith. Steve, I know you just can't express yourself emotion-wise. You're all wrung out.
I don't know what to say. This is the biggest thrill that could ever happen. I don't believe it. Skinny kid from Falls Village, Connecticut.
Well, not so skinny out there. You showed them all there was to show them, Steve. And was there any one moment in that ball game that had you really worried?
There were several. One when they hit the two men on, and then one hanging slider I threw to Davy Johnson that he popped up, but he missed the pitch. I can't believe how many people have this kind of an opportunity.
Well, you rose right to the occasion. And here with me right now, the greatest right fielder in the game of baseball, Roberto Clemente. Bobby, congratulations on a great World Series.
Thank you, Bob. And before I say anything in English, I would like to say something for my mother and father in Spanish. En el día más grande de mi vida, para los nenes, la bendición mía y que mi padre me eche mi bendición en Puerto Rico. Mr. and Mrs. Clemente, we love them too.
Yes, we understood you. Now, here's the chairman of the board, Mr. John Galbraith. I know how thrilled you are, Mr. Galbraith.
I can't say anything other than this. Magnificent. Just magnificent. Danny will do the talking.
Yes, and here's the president of the ball club, Danny Galbraith. Danny, well, as the president of the club, you now have come in like your father before you, 11 years before he won the championship as the president of the club. Now you're the president. I know that you can go home with this one and really feel happy.
Well, Bob, it's a great heritage to follow here with Dad. And the way these boys fought back, I think, shows the class of a real winner. And I'm so happy for all of them, as well as the folks back in Pittsburgh that have been supporting us all the way.